There you
Thank you
go.
so much. Nice to see you guys. I know a lot of you, and some of you I'm looking forward to meeting. If you can have your videos on, that always helps, but I understand if you've got tech issues happening. So, this practice of white Tara, there's a lot of different ones, and I think for this series, what we'll do is bookend each session, start each session with a very, very short version as our setting motivation, and then we'll end it with the longer version that's more elaborate and in depth. So let's go ahead and just start with some white Tara, and we'll use that as our motivation. So get yourself into meditation posture, settling the body, settling the mind, and then taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit transmigratory beings. And so letting the motivation connect, repeating it or reviewing it in some way in your mind, making it personal and specific. And then visualize white Tara above your head or in front of you at the level of your forehead. Whether it's a general impression of white or the specifics of all her features, try to feel white Tara present in the space in front. Radiant white, made of transparent light, three-dimensional, living. One in nature with all of your teachers, as well as representing your own potential. Visualize long life nectar coming from Tara's heart. This blissful white nectar enters your crown and completely fills your body. And add the mantra to the visualization. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Mama Aya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuruye Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Mama Aya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuruye Soha. Tare Tu Tare. Om tare tutare ture mama aya punyanjana pushtam kruye soha. Feel strongly that all your sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, and obscurations are completely purified. Feel that your life, merit, wisdom, scriptural understanding has all increased. And you've planted the seeds to receive the realization of immortality. And see if you can hold some of those ideas, taking the result as the path in this very introductory way. And then dedicate the merit to achieving the state of Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So that very short version is pretty much suitable for anybody, whether you have empowerment or not. It's not one that I would share with people who don't have some connection to Tibetan Buddhism, obviously. But in terms of good for everybody, this is a good for everyone one. And I think it's really helpful to have a very, very, very simplified version of some of your practices, particularly to be able to offer during times of stress to others, as well as for you to be able to just like spark to life without needing to read a text. Because you notice it's just one page, and of that page, it's things that you already would assume to be the case. Basically, it's refuge in bodhicitta, the visualization and mantra, dedicate. So it's quite straightforward. So you could call it to mind very quickly on the train. You could call it to mind very quickly in a staff meeting, stressful family dinner. You could call it to mind. And it has a lot of power. So having the short one in your back pocket, I think is very useful, particularly if you've had an oral transmission, a lung or a jainong, a subsequent permission from one of your lamas to do this practice, but you don't have a requirement. You don't have a necessity to do it every single day. You haven't made a commitment to do it every single day, but it's one of your miscellaneous kind of empowerments that you have. It's a nice way to kind of tune into it briefly. And, obviously, if you've had the initiation, you can also self-generate as White Tara. But in terms of long life deities, I think front generation practice is pretty helpful because we do need a boost, right? We get a bit tired, we get a bit lackluster, we feel vitality slip. So doing front generation practices with the long life deities, I think is a really good approach. And then some of the other deities, like maybe Chenrezig or Green Tara, you might do more self-generation if you have those empowerments. So it's a mixed group here. Knowing who I know, some of you have been practicing a long time, know all these things, practice them a lot. And I think a couple of you are newish to Tantra. So please excuse me if I'm telling you things you already know. And if I'm telling you things that go way over your head, also, thank you for your patience. We'll try and do something for everyone. Basically, with these practices, a lot depends on just go with it and clarify as the time goes by. It's like, all right, let's just do the thing as it's written. And then gradually you kind of unpack the parts that are a bit more obscure. And what's remarkable about sadhana practice is that even without being totally sure of all the bits and pieces, doing it as written often has quite a powerful impact on your mind. And I always find that really interesting that even from the very beginning, I'm like, okay, it says to visualize that. I'll visualize that. Let's see what happens. Oh, oh, I feel better. It's quite interesting that these have a lot of power prior to understanding. Tantra is not the same thing as analytical meditation, but it's using a lot of analytical meditation skills. Sorry, there's a weird noise outside my door. I think it's a I think it's the neighbors. I think the neighbors are up to something. Excuse me for being distracted. Anyway, let's go right into it. Here we go. So, some of you know this book, Power of Mantra. I used it a lot when I was teaching at Vajrapani. It had just come out a couple years ago. And this practice of white Tara is described in brief in there. It's kind of half of a chapter, but I really recommend it for those of you who practice Kriya Tantra, lower Tantra. This is a really good snapshot of kind of the 5 or 6 main deities practiced in Kriya Tantra in our tradition. It's just very straightforward, it's very experiential, and it's got all the things that you want to know about what does the mantra mean, what is the symbolism of this, what's the story of that. It's just a really solid reference book, The Power of Mantra. So I really recommend that book. Okay, we must say, because we're talking about Tantra, these practices rely on and having an understanding and conviction in the 3 principal aspects of the path. The 3 principal aspects of the path. It's really important that we understand that all tantric practice relies on the foundational Buddhist practices. It's not instead of, it's not skipping over. That if you don't have some understanding of these, it just simply will not work, and it could actually wind up being to your detriment on the path, right? So whether you have a realization of these 3 or not, that's, that'll take the time it takes and is kind of in a way none of my business. But in terms of engagement, you need to understand, at least in a cursory way, and have a conviction in these 3. Okay, so that your reason for practicing Tantra is to get out of samsara, is to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, and understands that to do so, you're going to need the correct view, right? Simple as that. And the other essentials for all Buddhist Tantra is Mahayana refuge, right? In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, but from a Mahayana perspective. And then reliance on a valid and vetted Vajra guru, then receiving the empowerment itself from them. So some of you might not have the empowerment of White Tara, and that's fine because I'll be teaching it in a way that's really open to everybody. But when you start practicing it in its full-fledged form, you will need to receive an empowerment, or in this case, a Jainang, a subsequent permission from a valid and vetted Vajraguru. And that is a process that is very important to not take lightly. I think something that can happen is that once we're feeling ready for tantric practice, we just start hunting for one of these big name gurus who's giving empowerments and are like, oh, great, they're giving white Tara. I want white Tara. We go and take white Tara, forgetting that there is a huge karmic connection made with the teacher. The teacher is incredibly important who's giving it to you because they're going to be your representation of the Buddha while you're on the cushion. They are going to be white Tara for you while you're practicing. And you're needing to look at how do I adopt the attitude of pure view when I interact with them, particularly in my practice, but even in an everyday kind of way. Do they have the sort of appearance that's going to lend itself easily to that? Or is it going to be actually a real workout, a real mental gymnastics to see them in this pure way? So you want to do a lot of regular teachings with teachers first, sutra level teachings, Mahayana stuff that's not Tantra. Really feel, how is it when they teach about bodhicitta? Does it move your heart? How is it when they teach about the correct view? Does it really make sense to you? Is it someone that is not just a good teacher, but a good teacher for you, that has really obvious, consistent ethical discipline, really obvious, consistent practice above and beyond what you have, such that you could feel comfortable entering into a Vajra disciple relationship with them? So, not something to take lightly, but we can definitely do a form of white Tara practice prior to all of that. But it's just to kind of let you know that even lower Tantra, Kriya Tantra, is not something to enter into lightly just because you want to practice this practice. Who you get it from is really important consideration. Jai, did you have a question?
I do. I don't know if you want me to wait till the end or if it's all right, because it fits in with what you're saying.
Yeah, rock on.
The follow-up. Okay. Um, so I don't, I've been pondering this for a long time. Why the necessity of a live guru? Why that whole dynamic? I'm not sure of the explanation for it. It's like I feel like I have a strong connection with Tara.
Hmm.
Okay. And like, why do I then need to have someone else in that relationship, so to speak? So I'm not
Yeah,
clear about
why the
and
middleman?
I have pondered, and yes, by the way, it tends to be male. Yes, I have noticed this. I suppose you don't have the empowerment to be able to empower us, by the way.
I mean, I do, but I wouldn't. I do, but I
Okay,
wouldn't.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you have it at least. Okay, that's great. All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's a big deal, you know. I think the gender thing is a whole other thing, and you got to workshop your own relationship to gender, you know, in your life. Do that. The fact that they're all boys is kind of annoying, but they're really awesome ones
And
once you
I
meet
have
them.
had about, 50, 60 years to practice that,
Yeah,
darling.
good. Good,
Okay,
good.
been working on
Good.
it.
Good, good. No, I mean, the patriarchy exists. It's annoying. Yes. Um, in terms of the individual, why do you need to take the empowerment from an individual? There's this idea of unbroken oral transmission and the blessings of unbroken oral transmission. Unbroken from when? From the Buddha. So the Buddha took the form of these deities when he taught them. And the idea is that when you take an empowerment, you're another link in the chain that goes all the way back to the Buddha. And that carries with it a huge amount of protection and blessings. And you need protection and blessings when you practice Tantra because it's not a simply intellectual exercise. There's a lot going on energetically, and there's a lot going on with your subtle energy system that takes a while to get your own control over. So you do need some backup. And a lot of that is very esoteric, mystical, magical, take it or leave it. And yet, I think even in a very ordinary way, we understand the difference between having read a teaching and having received a teaching orally live, right? There could be some simple teaching, say it was on refuge and you read about it and you thought it was beautiful, and then one of the lamas taught you about it and might have given you refuge, and now it's alive. And it's not even different words than you read. And it's not even different intellectual understanding than what you came to, but there's something vivid about it now that you've had the oral transmission. So much more so with Tantra. So the idea is that you are connecting to the unbroken oral transmission from the time of the Buddha via a vessel who is pure and relatable and suitable for your mind and can help you in both obvious ways to instruct you in the practice, like literally, like, you know, verse one is about this, verse two is about that, but also in the subtler way of support where you've made the connection via vows. So when you take a tantric empowerment, even Kriya Tantra, you're taking bodhisattva vows also, even if you already have them. And when you're taking bodhisattva vows, you're really making this promise from now until enlightenment, I will not give up on my path for the sake of all sentient beings. You know, from now until enlightenment, I'm going to practice. I'm going to keep practicing every life until enlightenment. And of course, if I get an animal rebirth, I will forget and all of those things. But it's this idea that, you know, this is not about one life. This is not about one relationship. This is about the forever practice of working for the welfare of sentient beings, and that my work is not done until all sentient beings are enlightened. And the person that gives you those vows, you need to be seeing them in the light of this is someone who's already made that promise. And this is someone I look to as a representative of embodying that path. And so they inspire you, they protect you, they hold you. And, you know, in the traditional text, it says it's not a good idea to practice self-generation, to see yourself as the deity until you take empowerment, because it also creates obstacles. You know, because what are you merging with? So many of the more advanced sadhanas have a part where you are merging with the guru hyphen Buddha, right? Not just the Buddha, but the guru Buddha. And to have that feeling of merging, you need a personality that you can relate to. You need a relationship and a dynamic that you've been a participant in, even if only as an audience member. There's a living dynamic at play. And that kind of relationship makes all the difference in the spiritual path, just like it makes all the difference in your ordinary life. Having friends, having mentors, having partners, having coworkers, everything is different when it's relational, and everything is more profound when it's relational. So there's layers and layers and layers of reasons why taking an empowerment from a human being holding the lineage is essential to all of this. And the way it gets summarized in the traditional texts is, and if you don't, obstacles arise in terms of connection, in terms of view, in terms of blessings. You can have a type of an arrogance or a pride that kind of stifles your growth. And the really poignant thing that starts to happen is that the practices won't work as intended, and then you think that they don't work, or they don't work as intended, and you think there's something wrong with you, when neither of those are the case. Yeah, it's just the conditions weren't assembled. So, all cakes need a certain amount of dry ingredients, but without water, it's not going to work, right? And think of the guru as kind of like the water that binds it all together and kind of is that essential alchemy we need for the spiritual path. So, the guru is not the divine necessarily. They're the gateway to the divine, but we adopt the attitude that they are the divine in our meditative practice. So when we're visualizing White Tara in the space in front of us, she's one in nature with every Lama who's ever moved our heart towards the Dharma, but in particular, the one who gave us that empowerment. Yeah, or in particular, the one that we consider our root Lama, who perhaps gave us highest yoga tantra or the most empowerments. It's something to just sit with, Giant. You don't have to just swallow it, but it's interesting to explore why there would be resistance to the intermediary and what would be the benefit of the intermediary, divorced from all this kind of esoteric stuff and all this kind of by the book checklist stuff, to just kind of be curious of how would it help and why do I have resistance? And of my resistance, what is wisdom and what is ego? And just kind of play with it a little bit. It's not a simple answer, but it's a really good question that you brought up. Yeah.
Many thanks. Many
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Other questions about the giving the empowerment situation or the Vajraguru situation in this whole practice that we're talking about, Tantra in general? All right. So if you have lamas, if you have gurus who give empowerments and you haven't received White Tara, request them to give you White Tara. It's a good idea, right? If you're already in and you already have made a connection with a Vajra teacher and they've given you a green Tara or a medicine Buddha or a great Chenrezig or something, it's really auspicious to request White Tara because it creates the cause for both your long life and theirs, both, for them to show the appearance of long life themselves. So we're going to get a little bit into this whole karma of what creates long life in a sec, but just to keep on the prerequisites, renunciation, bodhicitta, correct view, Mahayana refuge, reliance on a valid and vetted Vajraguru, receiving the empowerment from them. Um, just to hammer it home, right? If you don't have renunciation, at least in a practicing way, Tantra can become a cause for samsara, right? If you don't have the determination to be free from samsara, then utilizing these visualizations and these techniques and this layer of bliss and this combination with method and wisdom and this particular technique, it's like taking medicine and making it into poison. So we really need renunciation. A lot of Tantra relies on adopting the attitude that you are already a Buddha, the environment is already pure, that the mantras are what you hear even when you hear, airplanes or machinery or people's criticism. And it takes a very sharp mind to be able to do this alchemy of taking the result as the path without getting weird about it, without getting tangled in a way that is dysfunctional. And so you need that very firm basis of I'm doing all of this to get out of samsara, to renounce suffering and its causes, right? What am I renouncing? Suffering and its causes. What are the causes of suffering? Karma and disturbing emotions, right? That Tantra is to help me cut through disturbing emotions, not to increase them. Okay. So then without bodhicitta, Tantra potentially reinforces self-cherishing, right? So if you don't have bodhicitta, then you could start getting really inflated Yeah, and getting really like, I'm a really advanced practitioner. I'm doing the tippy top practice. I am amazing. Or you could get this kind of like, this practice is so important, nobody better bug me, right? Because it's elaborate and there's a lot of visualizations and there's a lot of techniques. And so I really need to focus. That means nobody better bug me while I do this very sophisticated thing. And you wind up reinforcing self-cherishing, right? There's a lot of pitfalls in practicing Tantra without bodhicitta, but we have to remember the only reason to practice Tantra is because of bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta, right? You're only practicing Tantra because you want to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. There is no other reason to practice Tantra. Yeah, it is in order to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So if your Tantra is for another reason, it is not Mahayana Buddhist Tantra. So it's really important that we keep bodhicitta forefront. Without correct view, the wisdom realizing emptiness, Tantra can potentially reinforce self-grasping, right? The self-grasping ignorance that can make you into a fundamentalist and can make you too literal and can make you too concrete when you do these very spacious, creative, playful, provocative visualizations in Tantra. Without the correct view, you could really make it worse. Okay. So without these, Tantra doesn't work or it becomes dangerous. Do you have any questions about that or qualms about that or additions to that? It's very important. Right, especially because whenever you hear the word Tantra in the world, it's not necessarily referring to Mahayana Buddhist Tantra. It might be referring to something from the Hindu tradition and the Vedic traditions. It might be something poached from those traditions and taken out of context and put into some strange adult romance situation that has nothing to do with the spiritual practice, but is entertaining, right? It might be, something that's exploitative. It might be all sorts of things. So just having the word tantra exist in your practice already, you have to make sure you know what on earth you're doing and that you're not mixing it with other times you've heard this word. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. And also be careful if you tell people that you're practicing tantra because they might suddenly have thoughts about you that are untrue and be like, "Oh, I didn't know you were like that." I mean, no judgment. Not realizing that you're just sitting quietly in your room. Right? Okay. So, yes. All right. All right. So, deity and deity yoga, I think you guys know these words, but just to make sure we're clear, when we're talking about the deity, we're talking about an emanation of the enlightened mind used as the object of meditation in tantric practices. So then deity yoga is the tantric practice of generating oneself in the form of a meditational deity within purified surroundings. And that purification of surroundings is done through meditation on emptiness, etc. Okay. So we're taking the result as the path, and doing this has great significance and power. It's also indispensable. Tantra speaks of the path being similar to the fruit in four ways. So these are known as the four complete purities, and they are either explicit or implicit in every single tantric sadhana or practice manual. The complete purity of environment, body, resources, and activities. So, in order to achieve the resultant state, that is the union of the two enlightened bodies, it's essential to engage in a path characterized by the union of method and wisdom. This fact is accepted by all Mahayana schools. So, this is from His Holiness's book, The World of Tibetan Buddhism. It's a really excellent one. I suggest you have it if you don't already. But basically, complete purity of environment, here's where we're meditating on the mandala. Right? The mandala of the deity is the environment of the deity, the celestial mansion with four doors and four entrances, and the Vajra fence and the mountain of fire, and deities sending out offerings and blessings coming back, and all of this elaborate thing that's happening in the environment, the mandala. This is creating the cause for a pure environment. This is purifying the environment that we experience now. And then we have the complete purity of the body, and this is meditating on the body of the deity or the Buddha that we're practicing, both the purity of the body in the front generation, the Tara in front, or and yourself as the deity. And then complete purity of resources. This is the offerings that are made and received during the practice, creates the cause for pure resources. And then the complete purity of activities. This is the mantra with the sending and gathering of light rays and blessings meditation that is pretty much consistent through all tantric practice. So when we're talking about long life deities specifically, our three main ones are Namgyalma here front and center, and then Amitayas and White Tara below her. These are the three main long life deities in our tradition. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, although we all have a certain lifespan determined by the karma created in previous lives, that lifespan can be cut short through the ripening of negative imprints caused by having committed a heavy negative action motivated by self-cherishing or one of the other delusions. This creates an obstacle to our life, which can result in death. Reciting the mantra of White Tara is especially effective for eliminating life obstacles, helping us to have a long life. It's also a powerful healing mantra. However, as I have mentioned, if the motivation is only for relief from temporal suffering and to enjoy this life's pleasures, the recitation does not become virtuous, even though it may help alleviate the immediate problem. So, along with the practices of Namgyalma and others that help us have a long life, a White Tara practice is considered very effective when we liberate animals. Prolonging the lives of animals by saving their lives naturally prolongs our own life. So this is a really user-friendly kind of a practice, these long life practices, particularly White Tara. And so she resembles green Tara, but is white. And her color is white, symbolizing having overcome the two obscurations. She has 7 eyes, the third eye on her face in the middle of her forehead, and one on each of her palms and the soles of her feet. These symbolize her realization of the 3 doors of liberation: emptiness, signlessness, and wishlessness, and the realization of the 4 immeasurable thoughts: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Unlike green Tara, who has her right leg extended, White Tara sits in the full Vajra posture. So there are many interpretations of these 3 words: emptiness, signlessness, wishlessness. The common one is that emptiness is the lack of inherent nature. Signlessness is the lack of inherent cause, and wishlessness is the lack of inherent production. So her 3 eyes on her face represent the 3 doors of liberation, and then the ones on her palms and her soles of her feet represent the 4 immeasurables. So even just right there, even just the eyes, there is so much symbolism just built into the visualization right there. And if you want, while you're doing a practice called minding the symbolism, which is something that you can always plug in right before a mantra recitation in any of your practices. So any of your tantric practices, right before you get to the mantra recitation, you're building up the different details of the deity. And then you try to hold it all together in your mind's eye. And at this time, it's nice, it's useful, but not necessary to do what's called minding the symbolism, which is basically just going from head to toe, thinking about what you know of the iconography and doing a brief analysis, touching base with all of those teachings that you've already heard before. So you might not have heard teachings on the 3 doors of liberation, but you've probably heard teachings on emptiness. So you can think of those 3 eyes, her 2 main eyes and her third eye, and spend a moment meditating on emptiness. And then you move down and you think of the 4 eyes, the 2 at her palms, the 2 at the soles of her feet, and spend a moment reconnecting with the 4 immeasurable thoughts, etc. So you could do this with any of your practices where whatever you know so far, you're just tuning into in a very brief, unelaborate, analytical way that is kind of touching on your previous work that you've done when you were doing Lamrim meditations and when you've done study with your geshis. So it's a good kind of way of doing a quick review, but it's also embedding this image with a lot more significance from your side. And it really makes it a lot more loaded and meaningful than when you're bringing it up for the rest of the practice. So you do minding the symbolism, and then you relax your analysis, and then you move into the mantra recitation part of the sadhana. You could pick even just one thing, right? You could pick just the color white, something like that. So you don't have to do a whole elaborate thing, but it's a nice practice to add in when you're feeling like it. Okay, so the mantra, it's the regular Tara mantra plus some extra syllables. So we have Om Tare Tutare Ture, which is the normal Tara mantra with Soha. And for white Tara, we add Mama Arya Punyanjana, Pushtim Kuru Soha, or sometimes Kuru Yi Soha. And this is for increasing life, merit, and wisdom. So her seed syllable is tam, the center syllable there. And for meditational deities such as Tara, they each have their own particular seed syllable, a single sound that expresses their essence. For all forms of Tara, the seed syllable is tam, pronounced with an aspiration, like an H in there. These syllables, written as a single letter or a stack of letters in Tibetan, are viewed as both representations of the deity and as living expressions of the wisdom and energy of the divine that the deity transmits. As David Schneider states in his excellent article, Sacred Seeds, just as the seed of a plant contains the whole plant, so a seed syllable concentrates everything characteristic of an enlightened energy. He goes on to say, letters were seen as an intermediary step between the ineffable majesty of the divine and more elaborated rituals. The divine rustled itself into form first, through sound, and then letter, only later taking iconographical shape and story. Thus, the seed syllable Tam contains the entire essence of Tara, her wisdom, her compassion, her protection from all fears and dangers, and her enlightened activities, all condensed and available to you through the sound or image of Tam. So, Om is the same Om that we're used to, representing the Buddha's enlightened body, speech, and mind. Tare is freeing from samsara. Tu Tare is freeing from the 8 fears or dangers. Ture is freeing from illness. And then the one specific to white Tara, Mama, means myself, to increase your own lifespan, merit, and wisdom. If you're doing it for your teacher instead, or for a sick person, or for someone specific, instead of Mama, you would say Guru, or the name of the person that you're doing the practice for, kind of a short version of their name, just their first name or their Dharma name. And then Arya is lifespan. Punye is merit. Jhana is wisdom. Pushtim is increase. And Kuru Soha is may this come about. So this is Venerable Thubten Chodron's explanation. Of course, like with all mantras, there's layers and layers and layers of meaning, and it can never fully be expressed in words. But if you're thinking kind of the essence of all of this is may I be freed from the fears that come from the ripening of my negative karma. May I be free from the life obstacles, particularly from having done a lot of killing karma in my past. And then may all of my merit increase, my lifespan increase, my wisdom increase. So it's this real supercharge kind of energy. Green Tara, we feel more in terms of like protection and swift action, right? White Tara is a lot more about this kind of charging up of the battery that really we need for the rest of our work. It's like, give me all of the vitality and life force that I've created the causes for right now at my fingertips so that I can do my practice in the deepest, most efficient way for the benefit of all sentient beings who really do need me right now. So you can think about the meaning of the mantra while you're saying it. Really feel like your lifespan is increasing. We're increasing your karmic lifespan, and especially removing any kind of karma that would cause untimely death. Also, we're increasing our merit so that we have longer lifespan. They say that death comes about either because the karmically given lifespan that was with us when we were born has either run out, or we have an untimely karma that ripens, or we run out of merit. So punye is increasing our merit, not just the merit to have a long life, because that's just this lifetime. The reason we want a long life, by the way, isn't just because we don't want to die, it's because we want to practice the Dharma. Everybody doesn't want to die, but we should have a better motivation for that. It's for our own dharma practice. So punya means increasing our merit because to gain realizations, we need a lot of merit. Jhana is wisdom, the collection of merit, the collection of wisdom. We need both of those. And then pushtim, may they increase. You can contemplate that these three are increasing: lifespan, merit, and wisdom. So the idea is that, say you have the karma to live to be 90, but you also have a lot of obstacle karma that could ripen that would give you untimely death. So you have the karma to live to be 90. It's very unlikely that you could add to 90. But it could be that at 50, you have a big life obstacle year. And to prevent that from ripening, you do a lot of White Tara practice and you miss the danger zone and you continue to live out your full lifespan. Does that make sense? So we're talking about the throwing karma that we came in with this body, with this life. So there's a lot of karmas ripening all the time. Some of them have ripened and there's not much you can do about them once they've ripened. Others are actually a little bit more finite, a little bit shorter time duration, and you can kind of nurture a different one to ripen right on the heels of it, kind of like we do in our daily life. Right. So if in our daily life we're having like a really heavy, dark mood, we know that's the ripening result of negative karma. And if we respond with anger and, all the things, then we ripen more back-to-back seeds of a similar type and we have a terrible day. But if we're having our heavy, dark mood and we really practice Dharma well and really think, may I take this on the path? May I use this suffering experience to open my heart of compassion? Then it finishes, and then the next seed that ripens is one of happiness. Right. So similarly, through a whole lifespan, we want to look at like, okay, we don't want untimely death. Okay, we've created any number of causes for untimely death through usually misuse of resources and disregard of life, mainly disregard of life and active killing both. So if we can really clear that karma and increase the good stuff, then we're going to have the kind of life where practice is easier, but it's how is it easier, right? You need a lot of merit for practice to even be a good idea to you, right? To even want to practice, you need a lot of merit. If you think about, no, 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 I need opportunity. If I had opportunity, I would practice all the time. And then you look at all of the times in your life where you've had plenty of time, plenty of space, plenty of resources, and you're like, yeah, but I have to rest now, right? And you give yourself all sorts of excuses. So you need a lot of merit to even want to practice, let alone to have the opportunity to practice. So things like Tara can really give you that boost where it just makes sense for you to go sit down and do your practice and do it well. And you don't have all of this wrestling resistance and all of this justification and excuses and all of this distraction and all of these things that kind of like prevent us from doing the deep work as consistently. Do you know what I mean? But Atara is going to help you out. So both with clearing untimely death, but also the merit to practice and to practice well. So we all need all the help we can get. Okay. So in the practice that we're going to do the wish fulfilling wheel, which is a little bit elaborate. So I don't want you to be intimidated. Start really simple. But this visualization is in the sadhana. So you're like, oh, heavens, that's quite a lot of mantras. Don't worry, they're fun. So what we have is Nagarjuna's method for purifying the speech, which includes the same syllables as in the additional mantra garlands in White Tara Chitta Chakra practice, and also rings of protection. So in the black and white one, it's easier to see the mantra syllables. You can sort of see them in the color version, but they're white because they're supposed to be white in the visualization, but it's harder to see on the screen. But what is easier to see is the rings of protection. So if you look at the ring, so you've got your Vajra fence, right? So keep going, and then you get to this white ring. So starting with this white ring, you have peace, then yellow, increase, red, power, blue, wrath, green, enlightened activity, And brown or pink is stability of actions and attainments. So this Kriya Tantra practice has something that you usually only see in highest yoga tantra practice, which is protection wheels. And really beautiful protection wheels, which are kind of like an invitation and filtration system. Okay. So you're inviting peace and you're filtering out anything that blocks peace, both from yourself and from others. Similarly, with increase, power, Roth, enlightened activity, stability, and actions. So this visualization becomes three-dimensional and becomes all around you with you at the center of it during the sadhana. And if we were to make them nice and flat, first we have the mantra for increase, which is the main mantra. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Mama Arya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuriye Soha. And then we have the Sanskrit vowels, and these purify the body. And a lot of people do these in the morning as they're purifying the speech practice. It's the same set of mantras as if you do the purifying the speech practice at the beginning of the day. So if you're already doing that, you're ahead of the game. So you have the vowels: om, a, I, u, ri, li, I, o, ong, so, ha. Then you have the Sanskrit consonants, and they purify speech. Om ka 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 ga nga, za 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 da nya, tra 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 na, ta 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 na, pa pa ba pa ma, yara la wa, sha 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 ha cha so ha. And the heart mantra of dependent arising purifies the mind. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetun tetsung tatagato hayavade tetsun chayo nirodha evamvadi mahashramana ye soha. So this is kind of a good catch-all mantra to even just have in your life divorced from this practice. The heart mantra of dependent arising purifies the mind. That's kind of a simple way of saying something very significant. It's helping you remember dependent arising, and that is part of what purifies the mind. How do you come to understand the emptiness of inherent existence? By realizing the reason things are empty is because they're dependent. So, doing the mantra of dependent arising purifies the mind. And interestingly enough, it's also used to purify the environment. So, if you want to bless some area of your house that feels like it's got weird vibes, or someone's just been over and they came over with really heavy energy, this is a very helpful mantra to do in those spaces. If it feels like someone has a lot of obstacles, say they're in hospital and they're bedridden, you might want to do this mantra and blow into their water with consent without COVID, right? It's a very good catch-all mantra to have in your back pocket, the mantra of dependent arising. So it happens to be in the White Tara practice, but you'll find it in lots of other places as well. Um, Sometimes you'll see it in Gektor practice, the dispelling practice we do before empowerments. Sometimes you'll see it in the bath offering practice that you do during Jorchu. It comes up all over the place. So it's not a whole different dependent arising mantra. It's the same one that you may have seen in other places. Okay. So again, keeping it simple, if you're doing this for somebody else, the simple way to practice White Tara is to visualize the sick person you're trying to help in front of you with White Tara above them. You then visualize beams of white nectar entering the crown of their head, totally filling their body, purifying all their defilements and negative karmas, their sicknesses, the threat of untimely death. And as you do this, you can recite the mantra at least 21 times. And then you can keep going with the short version, the regular Tara mantra. Then, when you finish the mantra recitation, really feel that their body is filled with white nectar like milk from white Tara, and envision they've achieved all of Tara's qualities: perfect power, the ability to benefit sentient beings, great compassion, and especially immortality. So, some of the books that I'll be drawing on, as well as my own teacher's oral transmission and commentary from when I've received it from him. This one is for those of you that have been practicing a long time, The Healing Nectar of Immortality by Trijang Rinpoche. This one is really elaborate and really dense and really amazing, and I recommend it a lot, but it's not great for beginners. For beginners to Tara practice, this one, Tara, the Liberating Power of the Female Buddha, 22 Meditations to Heal Ourselves and Repair Our World by Rachel Wooten. This one is really lovely. So one for more senior students, one for more new to Tantra students. And then the Power of Mantra that I mentioned, that one has all the main Kriya Tantra deities. This one by Ringu Tukul Rinpoche, White Tara, the Healing Light of Wisdom. It's pretty basic in some ways, but it actually brings some very cool nuance to how to think while doing the practice. And then Gaelic Rinpoche, who some of you may have known, this one, the practice of the triumphant Ma, healing and self-healing through White Tara. This one is a very classic kind of a Geshe teaching. So those of you that are familiar with Geshe teachings and love Geshe teachings, it's all very nice and tidy and linear and well sourced and all sorts of cool quotes and debates and all the things. So I'll send the slides to Sheila each week, but that's what we'll be drawing on is my own teacher's commentary from the oral tradition, as well as some of these really valid commentaries that exist out there. All right, so are there any questions before we do a little practice? Is there anything that you're really hoping to learn about White Tara through this short series that we're doing in April? Then I can make sure to plug into the syllabus in my head. Yeah, Jai, go ahead.
The thing that would be helpful for me, and I think, I can kind of deduce it, but it would be helpful from my point of view to be very clear on when you would do white Tara versus when you would do green Tara.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the short answer is you're not going to go wrong and they're in cahoots. But in terms of targeting your energy, there is a time when the threat to sentient beings seems less about illness and more about external harm. And if it's more about external harm, like fear of flood, fear of fire, fear of violence, green Tara. If it's about internal ripenings for illness, whether mental illness or physical illness, if it's about loss of heart, loss of vitality, loss of support, if it's kind of these more internal threats to well-being, then white Tara. That's kind of a good way of framing it. Yeah, external threats, green Tara, internal threats, white Tara. Yeah, whether for yourself or for others. Yeah. Yeah, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, if one, for various reasons, needs to synthesize their practice, make it more compact, is there a way to say this is essential, this is good, but if you're going to skip something, this is where you do that.
This one that we did at the beginning. Yep. This is the synthesis. Must
And
have refuge in bodhicitta, must have visualization, must have mantra, must have dedication. Yeah.
where can I find that page?
I can send it to Sheila, but all of it is on the FPMT website. They
Great.
have all of their practice text there, but I can send it to Sheila for to disseminate if that works for you guys. Is that a good, yeah?
That's great.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, no worries. Yep. So the one we're about to do is a lot more elaborate. So if you're new to it, just kind of relax into spaciousness. Don't feel like you need to get too concrete about it. Just kind of like feel like it's breaking the ice of something that's really going to come in handy going forward. And for those of you who are already doing this practice or have done it in the past, hooray! Right? We get to do it again. Um, the wish fulfilling wheel practice, it includes a little sprinkle of Amitayas in amongst it and the practice of hooking back the life force. So before we do it, I just kind of wanted to explain about what does it mean to hook back the life force because there's a short section in the Sadhana that talks about that. And, in Tibetan medicine, there's different things that are described in terms of what gives us energy. What we're most familiar with is lung or wind or qi, right? We're familiar with that concept, but we don't often talk about hla. and Tla is life force. And life force gets lost, and it's kind of the thing that just makes you feel the fundamental fatigue, like the big tuckered out. Like it's not like I just haven't had a good night's sleep or I haven't been eating enough spinach. It's like that deep fatigue, which obviously you want to see your healthcare professionals about and make sure you do all your common sense things. Disclaimer, disclaimer. And what can happen is that if you have been in a terrible temper for a while, it loses life force, right? If you've just been so angry about something, justified or unjustified, it's never justified. Real or unreal, it's all unreal. But if you've just been nurturing a grudge, it loses vitality. If you've been in an obsession spiral and just needing something to happen, wanting something to happen, going over it and over it and over it and over it and over it, or wanting somebody or wanting some substance, it depletes life force. If you have gotten yourself into a reputation trigger and you're feeling like, oh, people don't respect me, they should respect me, why don't they respect me? And you've just gotten your pride really escalated, this also depletes life force. So basically, all of our delusions, are not good for us, right? Really seeing them as poison is helpful. Our delusions are not good for us. But when we allow them and give in to them and nurture them and feed them, and there's like a chapter of our life really consumed by them, it takes life force. It takes law. Other things that make you vulnerable to losing life force are trauma, whether mental or physical trauma. Um, these are things that also can make you really lose life force and can make you vulnerable to, whether psychological kind of feelings of, I don't know, losing momentum, losing focus, getting brain fog, that kind of stuff for no reason you can really point to. Or, actually, if you believe in the spirit world, makes you open to psychic attacks of various types. So all of this is to say this is repairable, this is healable, and you can hook it back. Thank goodness, right? All of this is to say it can be hooked back. And so, in the practice where it talks about hooking back the life force with Amityas, that's what's being done there is the life force that was lost through delusions or through trauma or through various things that can happen in our life that's bigger than the everyday. Yeah. Like, of course, if you're grumpy all day, you're going to be tired. But I'm talking about like you've been in a real temper over a number of days and you've just been flaring it up and flaring it up, or you've been in a real obsession, et cetera, et cetera. Those sort of things are very depleting. So even if it was decades ago, you took a hit, right? You took a hit. And so it's nice to be able to hook that life force back and now be able to practice better and not be so tired, right? So like that. So we'll do a 5 minute break and then we'll do the white Tara practice, which I think also Sheila put in the chat, but I'll do share screen as well. So 5 minutes. Okay, for this week, I'm just going to go through it as written so that we can kind of get it in our heads. And then next week, I'm going to zoom in on a different section and give it a little bit more elaboration and some more details from the commentaries. And I'll be doing that then going forward. But for today, we'll just do it as written so that we can break the ice. So if you want to get yourself into a meditation posture, and if you have access to mala beads, grab your mala beads. I just see mine there. One moment. Okay. Settling the body. And if it feels useful, you can take a few deep, intentional breaths, encouraging further settling. And reciting aloud, I and all living beings, as extensive as space, from today on until the essence of enlightenment is achieved, take refuge in the glorious holy gurus, take refuge in the fully accomplished Buddhas, take refuge in the holy Dharma, take refuge in the Supreme Assembly. I take refuge in the Venerable Lady White Tara, the wish-fulfilling wheel, and the complete entourage of deities. I and all living beings, as extensive as space, from today on until the essence of enlightenment is achieved, take refuge in the glorious holy gurus, take refuge in the fully accomplished Buddhas, take refuge in the holy Dharma, take refuge in the Supreme Assembly. I take refuge in the Venerable Lady White Tara, the wish-fulfilling wheel, and the complete entourage of deities. I and all living beings, as extensive as space, from today on until the essence of enlightenment is achieved, take refuge in the glorious holy gurus, take refuge in the fully accomplished Buddhas, take refuge in the holy Dharma, take refuge in the Supreme Assembly. I take refuge in the Venerable Lady White Tara, the wish-fulfilling wheel, and the complete entourage of deities. I prostrate and take refuge in the Holy Guru and the three precious jewels. Please bestow your blessings on my mind stream. In order to attain the fully accomplished state of a Buddha, for the sake of all living beings, I will enter into the sadhana of White Tara, the wish-fulfilling wheel. In order to attain the fully accomplished state of a Buddha, for the sake of all living beings, I will enter into the sadhana of White Tara, the wish-fulfilling wheel. In order to attain the fully accomplished state of a Buddha, for the sake of all living beings, I will enter into the sadhana of White Tara, the wish-fulfilling wheel. Om Vajramrita Kundali Hana Hana Hum Pe. Om Sawa Shuddha Sawa Dhamma Sawa Shuddho Ham. Out of emptiness, from 8 Om syllables, appear spacious, extensive jeweled vessels, inside of which the syllables Om transform into different offering substances, which are clear, unobstructed, and as extensive as space. Om Bhagyamaya Hum, Om Bhadyamaya Hum, Om Pyujmeya Hum, Om Jubeya Hum, Om Alokaya Hum, Om Gandeya Hum, Om Nudeya Hum, Om Shabda Hum. If you have the empowerment, instantly become the Venerable Tara. If you don't have the empowerment, instantly Venerable Tara appears above your crown. Spending a moment to stabilize that, either yourself as Tara or Tara above your crown. The syllable Tam at Tara's heart emanates rays of light, inviting from her Patala abode the Lady Tara, the wish-fulfilling wheel, surrounded by the assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to the space above. The light dissolves back into Tara. Gods and asuras with their crowns, bow down to your lotus feet. I prostrate to Mother Tara, the one who rescues from all needs. Om Guru Arya Tare Sapare Ware Hai Gyam Payadyam Pyushpeya Duape Aloke Gande Nuade Shapta Prati Sahum Soha. I take refuge in the 3 jewels. I regret all my unwholesome deeds. I rejoice in the merit of all beings. I will hold bodhicitta until enlightenment. I take refuge until complete enlightenment in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. In order to fulfill the purpose of myself and others, I generate the mind of enlightenment. Having generated the mind of enlightenment, I invite all living beings as my guests. I will remain in this excellent conduct of the Bodhisattvas. Thereby may I achieve the state of a Buddha in order to benefit all living beings. May all living beings be endowed with happiness and the causes of happiness. May all living beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all living beings be endowed with the happiness that is free from suffering. May all living beings remain in a state of equanimity, free from attachment for those they hold close and aversion for those they keep distant. Reconnecting with those. Om Sawa Shuddha Sawa Dhamma Sawa Shuddha Ham. Dissolving into emptiness. Out of emptiness, from the syllable pam, comes a white lotus, and from ah, a moon disk, on top of which is my own consciousness in the form of a white syllable tam, emanating rays of light. The light collects back, and if you have the empowerment, become Venerable Wish-Fulfilling Wheel, or she appears in the space in front. White body, one face, two arms. Right hand in the gesture of supreme giving, left hand at the heart and holds between the thumb and ring finger the stem of an Utpala flower that blossoms at the level of the ear. It has 3 blossoms, the center one in full bloom, the right one having already blossomed and gone to fruit, the left not yet opened. These 3 symbolize the Buddhas of the 3 times. White Tara is adorned with jeweled ornaments and clad in various silk garments. Her upright body is supported by a moon disk and seated in the Vajra position. At the crown is a white Om, at the throat a red Ah, at the heart a blue Hum. At the heart on a moon disk is a white syllable Tam, which emanates rays of light, inviting from the Patala Buddha field in the south the Venerable Wish-Fulfilling Wheel, surrounded by an assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So whether Tara is in the space in front, or if you have the empowerment, seeing yourself as Tara, feeling that light goes out, and that all the Buddhas take the form of white Tara, Wish-Fulfilling Wheel, and come and merge with what you have visualized. Zai Hum Bam Ho. They become non-dual. Again, rays of light emanate from the syllable at the heart, inviting the initiating deities. Please bestow on me the initiation. Om Zawatata Gata Bishakata Samaya Shriyaya Hum. The body is filled, purifying all stains. The excess nectar overflowing from the crown transforms into Buddha Amitabha. Om Vajramrita Kundalini Hana Hana Hum Pe. Om Sawa Shuddha Sawa Dhamma Sawa Shuddho Hum. Out of emptiness, from 8 Om syllables, appear spacious, extensive vessels, inside of which the syllable Om transforms into different offering substances, which are clear, unobstructed, and as extensive as space. Om Bhagyamai Hum, Om Bhadyamai Hum, Om Bhushbeha Hum, Om Dubeyai Hum, Om Malkeha Hum, Om Gandeya Hum, Om Nudeya Hum, Om Shapta Ai Hum. Om Haryatare Sapare Vareyai Yam Bhadyam Yuepe Duepe Aloke Gande Nude Shapta Pratisam Soha. I prostrate to Mother Tara, the liberator of beings from existence, the one who liberates from the 8 worldly fears with Tutare, freeing from all illness with Ture. All the wisdom and activities of compassion of the extensive Buddhas, appearing in the form of an extremely beautiful goddess, bestowing longevity and supreme attainments to a great number of beings. I prostrate to the one who is extremely white and holds an Utpala in her hand. At the heart of Arya White Tara is an eight-spoked wheel with a hub and 3 rims. At the center, in a moon disk, is my own mind, as a white tom, encircled by the mantra for increase. Om Tare Turi Mama Arya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuri Soha. On the 8 spokes are the 8 syllables, Tare Ture Soha. On the inner rim, the vowels are placed counterclockwise. Om a I u ri li li I o a soha. On the middle rim, the consonants are arranged clockwise. Om ka nga cha nya ta na ta na pa ma yara lawa haksha soha. On the outer rim is the mantra of the essence of dependent arising, arranged clockwise. Omye dama hetu prabhava hetun tetsun tatagato hayavada tetsun chayo niroda evamvadi mahashramanaye soha. The seed syllable and all the letters of the mantra are in the nature of light. Dewdrops of nectar stream forth from the letters. At my crown is the lord of the family, Lord Amitayus, red in color, with 1 face and 2 arms, holding a golden vase filled with the nectar of immortality, in the gesture of meditative equipoise. Clad in silk and jeweled ornaments, he sits in the Vajra position. He is adorned at the heart with the red syllable Hri, from which hook-like red rays of light emanate in all directions. Collecting all of my life energies that have been robbed, stolen, or caused to be taken away or scattered by human and non-human beings, as well as the essence of the 5 great elements and the life energies and merits of all living beings, the brilliance and dignity of the 3 worlds and so forth, all the wealth and goodness of existence and the blessings of the body, speech, and mind of the Guru, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas are collected back into the form of nectar and rays of light in different colors and absorb into the vase in Amitayus's hands. By this absorption, the white nectar overflows and enters into my crown opening, absorbing into the wheel, the mantra, and the seed syllable at my heart. From that, rays of nectar flow down, filling my body. My outer body is washed. The accumulation of unwholesome imprints and obscurations, illnesses, disturbances, and obstacles of life are cleansed and purified, thus restoring my life energies, merits, and broken vows and commitments, and I attain the city of immortality. So stay with that visualization for a while. And you can zoom in on Amitayus at your crown and zoom into the vase in his lap that's continuously overfilling. Filling you back up with all the life force that was lost. And then shift your focus to the mantra at the heart, particularly the Om Tare Tutare Ture Mama Aya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuriye Soha. Even if it's just a general impression of light, and recite Om Tare Ture Mama Aya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuriye Soha. Om Tare Ture Mama Aya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuriye Soha. The mantra increasing life, merit, and wisdom, purifying obstacles to long life. Om Tare Ture Mama Aya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuriye Soha. Purifying the causes for illness, ripening the seeds for health and strength. Om Tare Ture Mama Aya Punyanjana Pushtim Kuriye Soha. And visualize outside of myself is a white wheel made of space iron, with space inside, like two hats joined together. The 10 spokes above and below, and in the 8 directions, have very sharp points turning clockwise at an extremely fast speed, thereby cutting into pieces all obstacles. Tongues of flames of light rays burn and swirl, and thus all disturbing forces are completely burnt like feathers burnt in fire. Again, from the wheel and mantras at my heart, white rays of light emanate, filling my entire body, pacifying illnesses, disturbances, obscurations, unwholesome imprints, and all obstacles to life. The rays of light go out of the pores of my body and form a white circle of light outside of myself, bringing about the accomplishment of all peaceful activities. Again, yellow rays of light emanate, filling my body, bringing about an increase of light, merit, in the wisdoms of hearing, contemplation, and meditation. The light radiates out, forming a yellow circle outside the white circle, bringing about the accomplishment of the activities of increase. Again, red rays of light emanate, endowing me with the power and energy to bring the 3 worlds under my control. The light radiates out, forming a red circle outside of the yellow circle, bringing about the accomplishment of the activities of control. Again, dark blue light rays of light emanate, endowing me with the power and energy to achieve all activities of destruction related to negative actions, those that harm others. The lights radiate out, forming a blue circle outside the red circle, bringing about the accomplishment of the activities of destruction. Again, green rays of light emanate, endowing me with the power to achieve all enlightened activities. Lights radiate out, forming a circle of green light outside of the blue circle, bringing about the accomplishment of all enlightened activities. Again, brown rays of light emanate, bringing about stability of the power of activities and attainments. The light radiates out, forming a brownish circle outside the green circle, bringing about stability. All these 6 circles are egg-shaped and of one single piece, very hard and strong, and cannot be destroyed even by the winds at the end of existence. All the space between each circle is filled with fresh, newly blossomed blue Tupala flowers, soft and tender. Having generated yourself in the form of Lady Tara or Lady Tara in the space above or in front, hold that image while generating the protective wheel in 6 light circles. And add the mantra. You can add the short one now. Tari tutari turi soha. 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 And purifying any mistakes. Padmasava Samaya Manupalaya Padmasava Deno Padisha Dido Mibawa Sudokaya Mibawa Supokaya Mibawa Hanarakta Mibawa Sawasiti Me Prayatsa Sawakama Sutsam Sinam Sriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagawa Sawatata Gata Padma Mame Mutsa Padma Bawa Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe. Whatever mistakes I have made because of not knowing or lacking ability or not finding the proper materials, please be patient with these. Om Haryatare Sapare Varya Yam Padyam Pupe Dupe Haloke Gande Nude Shabda Pratisahum Soha. All the wisdom and activities of compassion of the extensive Buddhas, appearing in the form of an extremely beautiful goddess, bestowing longevity and supreme attainments to a great number of beings, I praise the one who is extremely white and holds an utpala in her hand. Through the merit collected by this practice, may I quickly attain the state of a wish-fulfilling wheel, and may I lead all sentient beings without exception to her state of enlightenment, thus dedicating these roots of merit. You can relax your attention. Okay. So the practice also includes a torma offering, but if you're not doing retreat, that's less necessary. So you don't need to add that unless you want to. And there's a lot of different things to focus in on in that particular practice, to give more attention to zoom in on, depending on your personal needs in life at that time or your practice needs at life at that time. So we'll just keep unpacking it. And if you have any questions that arose, just kind of make a mental note and we can talk about it at the top of next session. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you, Venerable.
Venerable.
Thank you.